Is the palace finally starting to clean house after the disastrous tenure of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as working royals? Interestingly, the palace has all of a sudden decided to quietly delete Prince Harry's infamous bombastic letter to the press demanding that they leave his girlfriend Meghan Markle alone, and that anybody who didn't was labeled a certain thing, which resulted in a massive wave of toxicity within the royal space that continues to exist and flourish to this day and has been nothing but an epic train wreck for pretty much everyone involved. And perhaps it could have been the single biggest mistake the royal family ever made when it came to Harry and Meghan is not reining Harry in on this instance because it set up a bad precedence in relationship between Harry and Meghan in the press, Harry and Meghan in the public and Harry and Meghan, just so many different things where this letter really was a catalyst for so much awfulness that still continues to exist to this day. And unfortunately, whatever intent was there behind the letter, nothing has gone the way it's supposed to. In fact, I feel like that entire letter made everything about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's tenure as working royals worse. And so we are going to delve a bit into this today. Even though it's a bit of a blast from the past, I think it's important to discuss these serious issues. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. Provide you all compelling royal commentary about the latest news and sometimes the drama going on behind the scenes. So if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, that would be absolutely fantastic. I do want to let you guys know that if you're interested, I do have an upcoming trip with anybody who wants to come to the Christmas markets in Germany and Austria. It'll be a couple of days right before Christmas. You will get back on the 22nd, and it's just an opportunity to explore Germany and the Czech Republic, the Christmas markets, talk about royals and Harry and Meghan, Catherine and William, and so many other things while we're seeing some of the most gorgeous sights in those two countries. So if you guys are interested in that, there'll be a link up above and a link down below as well. And we're still in early bird pricing. So if you get there, you get a little bit of a cheaper rate. And so it'll be just a fantastic trip to experience Christmas in another country, which I think is just such a unique opportunity. So guys, feel free to check that out. When stories first broke that Prince Harry was dating a woman named Meghan Markle, I think many people in the world sort of scratched their heads going, who is this woman? Because nobody really knew who she was. And of course, Suits, although it had been a successful show for sure, she definitely wasn't part of the main cast. She wasn't a huge factor in it. So it just seemed odd that somehow Harry met Meghan Markle of all people. But of course, as we know now, it turned out that that was the case and the couple had started dating. And as this press and everyone continued to speculate about how they met, who they were, there were some distasteful stories that definitely went out for sure. And I think some exploration of who Meghan was, because of course, once you're attached to a royal, everybody wants to know everything about you. It kind of comes with the territory. And sometimes what they find isn't either as flattering as you want it to be, or the narrative is spinning in a way that you don't want it to. So Harry, on behalf of Meghan, who I think was very, very insistent on this, decided that he was going to make a very huge statement. And this statement had far-reaching implications and basically tanked Meghan Markle's future as a royal. Harry totally tanked her potential as a royal in many ways because of this statement, 110%. Because people didn't really like them. It became too strong. The press started to get a little fearful of them and everything. And it set up a situation where Harry, in many ways, left the royal family. Of course, he did this on, due to a lot of factors. But this letter, it was the catalyst of so much, which we still feel in the royal space. Because if you don't like Meghan, you are given a specific label by some people, which is sort of crazy because shouldn't you be allowed to dislike anyone if you don't particularly like them or you find certain aspects of their behavior or what they've done a bit distasteful? Shouldn't you be allowed to not like someone? But according to some people, you can't. And it's partially and hugely because of the statement Harry made, which the palace should have never let through because it set up a terrible future for everyone. For everyone. It is so incredibly bad. It did not help Harry. It did not help Meghan. It helped absolutely no one. So, what am I talking about here? This is the statement made by Jason Knapp on behalf of Harry and Meghan. And interestingly enough, this has been quietly deleted from the royal website, as it should have been, because it should never have gone out in the first place. I still don't know why anybody let it go because it was just so incredibly bad. So this has been something brought up by Newsweek because apparently they are very, very bored in the royal space right now and has decided to find other stories. But as I began to think about it, I think this is becoming more and more of a critical issue because it set off a chain reaction that still continues to go on and on and on. So let's look at what People magazine here says. And so we have the story: Royal family quietly deleted Prince Harry's rare statement confirming his romance with Meghan Markle from the website. And I think this did not come soon enough, to be quite honest. They should have deleted this thing. I mean, they shouldn't have let it go in the first place, but they should have deleted this thing long ago. Obviously, Harry and Meghan have been gone from the royal family at this point for quite a while. And this story just absolutely, absolutely did her no favors at the end. So it says that it was deleted in around December, between December 3rd and December 10th, and they've been updating the royal website over time here. And at the time, Harry's spokesman said in part, his girlfriend Meghan Markle has been subjected to a wave of abuse and harassment. Some of this has been very public. The smear on the front page of a national newspaper, the racial undertones of comment pieces, and the outright sexism and racism of social media trolls and web article comments. Some of it has been hidden from the public. The nightly legal battles to keep defamatory stories out of the papers, her mother having to struggle past photographers in order to get to her front door, the attempts of reporters and photographers to gain illegal entry to her home, and the calls to police that followed, the substantial bribes offered by papers to her ex-boyfriend, the bombardment of nearly every friend, coworker, loved one in her life. Well, number one, I want to say welcome to the international stage, Meghan Markle. Yes, you were small fry before, you were big time at that moment. And that's sort of what you can expect. There's nothing there that I don't think is any different than what Catherine, Camilla, or any other royal has experienced whatsoever. Whatsoever. It is all very, very similar. But Harry just made this absolutely massive, massive deal out of it. And I will say, I think some of these things can be true, but I also think a lot of it was somewhat exaggerated because it doesn't really seem like when they even tried in the documentary to show how she had been harassed, they had to use stock image. They had to show a video in front of her house, apparently, of 2 guys just on her porch and leaving. I didn't see anything potentially illegal or dangerous. There's nothing wrong with them going up and knocking on her door. That's not illegal. So this thing of twisting what could have been this sort of happy moment into this giant ugly thing, I think set a precedence for Harry and Meghan overall. And you have to say the sexism and supposed racism of social media trolls and web articles, well, they can make whatever comments they want to Prince Harry. You are not allowed to dictate what people say. And this statement always came across as very dictatorial. You will do this, you will do that. You can't do this, you can't do that. And yes, some of the articles probably delved into that realm, but some of them didn't. Some of them were maybe distasteful, but they didn't rise to the level of what Harry and Meghan are saying here. And it's also that, yes, there are trolls that exist, but there are trolls that exist on all sides. We've seen terrible harassment of Catherine over the last several months, and Harry and Meghan haven't done anything about it. They haven't made any sort of comment. And it just seems very hypocritical. And this seems like a desperate ploy by a man desperate to keep his girl happy. And it seems like that's probably what it was. I got another comment I'll read to you, but I can't remember where I read it. But it just seemed like very much that Harry was told if he didn't do something, she would leave. He had to do something, he had to make this grand gesture. But this grand gesture ended up tanking them both. This has not aged well for them. This has not gone well for them, partly and hugely because of this from the jump. It goes on to say Prince Harry's worried about Ms. Markle's safety and is deeply disappointed that he has not been able to protect her. It is not right that a few months into a relationship that him and Ms. Markle should be subjected to such a storm. He knows commentators will say this is the price she has to pay, and this is all part of the game. He strongly disagrees. This is not a game. It is her life and his. And yes, it's not a game, but it is sort of the price you pay. This is what happens when you're on the international stage at this level. When you enter into royalty, there is a different level of guarding, you could say. There is a different evaluation process than there is if you're an international star. There just is, because royals obviously are paid for by the taxpayers. Every time Prince Harry went to visit Meghan Markle, he had to bring bodyguards with him. And guess what? UK taxpayers, you paid for that. So you have the right to know who your potential royal is dating and may become their spouse. It's not a game, but it's an aspect of being royal. And they couldn't escape from that. And yes, I'm sure it's hard. He's away, he can't protect her. But she did have security, and they could not produce any evidence on that documentary that they fully controlled that really showed her being in any danger. Again, they had to use the stock images of paparazzi chases, like a such the like the fakest picture in the world of a guy in a car with a long range camera. And I'm like, that is the fakest thing I've ever seen. And it was. I mean, even the picture they used to show to try to prove that Meghan was being stalked and harassed was from a premiere of Harry Potter. She couldn't prove her case. They couldn't prove the argument. And because of that, this set up their relationship with this negative, toxic spin that's never been able to escape. It has never been able to escape this. And they should have, they could have. Again, if they played their cards a bit differently here, if they didn't decide, you know what, we're just going to go scorched earth policy, who cares? Because this is not going the way we want it to go. I don't think the press coverage maybe was as fawning as Megan wanted it to be. And unfortunately, she ended up paying the price for it in so many ways. And so I believe this is from Tom Bauer's book. And it says, in order to pacify Meghan's anger, Jason Knaft agreed to issue a statement on Harry's behalf, damning the media for their description of Meghan. Harry dictated the sentiments for Knaft to fashion into a statement, committing Knaft to a conundrum. Meghan demanded that the statement should reflect the parallel between her potential fate and Diana's. Knaft suggested that over dramatizing Meghan's distress would backfire. But Harry was adamant. If Meghan's wish to be equated with Diana was not satisfied, insisted Harry, he would probably lose her. Knapp acquiesced. And did we not see that over dramatization a year ago this month in their dramatic paparazzi near death paparazzi chase in the streets of Manhattan, where you can go the grand total of like 5 miles an hour and they went up to 80? Like, her desire to over dramatize things has not ended. And it just continues to backfire on them because people don't believe them. Because when I first read the statement about their supposed paparazzi chase, this is actually, I think, my dad who sent it to me first. I remember reading this going, is this fake? Because it's just so over exaggerated. And that's what you get from this statement by Jason Knapp there as well, is that it was over dramatized. It was too much. It went too far. And the result is that royal reporters, commentators were immediately facing harassment, even if they had nothing to do with those supposed negative articles. So this post is from Richard Palmer, and I know not everybody likes him, but I think what he says here is so incredibly important. He said, at least one columnist has expressed regret for some of the initial coverage of Harry's romance with Meghan. In hindsight, others wish that things had been handled differently. But this statement turned the royal reporting beat toxic and prompted death threats to journalists. Yes, 100% yes. This did nothing but fuel toxicity within the royal beat, within the royal watching community. It created this toxic culture that just really didn't exist. Now, I've been watching royals really closely for about 10 years, and I know I've been on sites where, they don't like Mary, they don't like Catherine. And yes, there are picking at different real ladies, but the level that it's come to with Meghan and how people treat any negative comments about Meghan is just a totally different level. It's just a totally different level. It is crazy. It's inappropriate. And it's just so incredibly bad because this has done nothing but hurt people. This has done nothing at the end of the day but hurt people. It did not help Harry and Meghan. It did not help Meghan in her career as a royal. It did not help her in any space to be part of that statement. And yes, maybe some journalists should have done things differently. Absolutely. But at the same time, was that the answer? Is what Harry and Meghan did the actual answer there? And I don't think it was. And I think it was part of Meghan's overall strategy to probably separate Harry from his family, his role, everything, is to set him on that path where he had to be her ultimate protector. And in the process, he ended up separating himself from his family. In order to protect her, he had to separate everybody else out of his life because they were all bad or something. I don't know. You look at this recent interview from Arthur Edwards, who was a royal photographer, talking about how the first picture Camilla saw of Archie was from Arthur, who had taken them at their photo call at Windsor Castle. That was the first time she had seen a picture of him. So go ahead and take a watch of this here.
When Archie was born, that was another, in my view, a disaster because I knew we was not going to get a picture of it. When George and Charlotte and Louis was born, and we got great pictures outside the hospital. I remember, and William and Catherine especially, they made such an effort to show the whole world their new baby. Harry's baby, Archie, was almost teething before we found out it was born. You know, I mean, it was. We were led to believe that she was gone into labour at 2 o'clock when the baby had been born many hours earlier. The whole thing was just stage managed to suit them. And in fact, I never stayed in Windsor. There was a royal tour to Germany with the King and Queen, and I went with them. I remember showing Camilla in I think Munich, the first pictures of Archie that was taken by the Press Association. I remember showing her on my phone, and she sort of, and that was the first time she saw him. You know,
Harry and Meghan created a toxic environment around themselves. They separated themselves from everyone except her mother, to the extent that his stepmother did not even receive a courtesy picture of his child before the rest of the world. That's just crazy. And so the toxicity that started supposedly with the media is revealed for what it truly has been over time. It was Harry and Meghan who were toxic. And yes, of course, there are toxic aspects in the media, but most of them we're praising, we're fawning, we're just curious. And yes, maybe had a distasteful headline here or there. Yes, maybe made some conclusions they shouldn't have. But the truth is, at the end of the day, Harry and Meghan have revealed themselves for the toxic individuals that they are in this space, nobody else. So, because of that, looking back on that statement, there was nothing worse they could have done, and there's nothing worse the palace could have done either. And though it's been a long time coming, the palace should have put that statement to rest such a long time ago, and it should never have seen the light of day. But the ones truly paying the price overall, I would have to say, are really Harry and Meghan because they've created this toxic space around themselves and extends to other places on social media and everything, but it surrounds them and everything they touch tends to turn a bit toxic. And unfortunately, too, because of what they've started, the toxicity, because of Catherine's cancer diagnosis, it sadly turned on her a bit as well. So it's just so unfortunate, so unnecessary. And this statement has aged so poorly, and it was about time for the royal family to take it off the website. So, guys, let me know what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of that statement. Have you experienced the toxicity that Harry and Meghan started? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Bye.